Welcome to this very special edition of TEIMAS Talks. I'm Perla Gándara, and today, in this final episode of 2025, we're taking a moment to look back at some of the most memorable conversations we've shared over the past year. Throughout 2025, we've had the pleasure of speaking with inspiring professionals who generously shared their ideas, experiences, and perspectives. Let's look back at some of those moments.
Waste exports from the EU to non-EU countries have increased by 72% in the last 20 years. It reached 35 million tons of waste in 2023. That's a massive amount of waste leaving Europe borders. And it really highlights why this regulation matters so much. The new waste shipment regulation is the European way to take better care of our waste, but also to make better use of our resources and raw materials. It sets stricter rules for how waste is shipped within the EU, how it's imported, and maybe more importantly, how it's exported to other parts of the world.
So, what's the intention of the new regulation?
The idea is to make sure that waste, especially hazardous or hard to recycle materials, isn't just being dumped into countries with fewer environmental protections. It also puts more responsibility on companies to prove that the waste will be managed properly wherever it ends up. So, in a nutshell, it's about tightening the rules, increasing transparency and digitalisation, and making sure that Europe doesn't just push its environmental problems and part of its resources onto someone else's doorstep.
Because at the end of the day, traceability isn't just about ticking legal boxes. It also is a safeguard for the company's reputation. And that matters now more than ever. Customers, investors, and society at large are increasingly demanding real, verifiable evidence that companies are managing their environmental impact responsibly. Waste is part of a company public image. Let's take, for example, another example, plastics. Plastics are a good example of how quickly things can change. A few years ago, companies could earn around 100 to 200 or even more euros per ton of recyclable plastic. But today, many of them are having to pay to get rid of it. That's a big change. That's largely down to oil prices. I explain myself. If the oil prices are very high, the price of virgin plastic is higher, so they turn to recycling, and the other way around. If the oil prices are very cheap, it is cheaper also to produce virgin plastic, and the recycled plastic is not interesting for waste managers. It is all about timing, material quality, and what's happening in the market as global.
Okay, from a European perspective, the waste sector faces several key challenges in 2025. One of the most pressing is the lack of harmonization among member states, particularly in the application of the regulations and criteria, especially regarding waste shipments and end of waste criteria. Diverging standards persist, creating legal uncertainty and hindering efficient management planning. Our companies also need to adapt to the new requirements of the packaging waste regulation, packaging and packaging waste regulation, and the implementation of extended producer responsibility to the commercial and industrial packaging waste. Another global issue affecting the sector is the risk management, which arises from the appearance of unexpected waste in the inherent risk of certain waste types, like lithium batteries. To address these issues, the European Commission has recently launched a public consultation for the Circular Economy Act, and our sector is actively participating.
But if we would like to maybe focus on two things that could be generally applicable, we can see a problem with the enforcement of the legislation, with the implementation of the legislation. We have maybe good laws, but they are not sufficiently well implemented in practice. And this is also leading to big disparities between member states, between regions in Europe. And this is, of course, a challenge. I give you an example, the early warning report, which is a report that the Commission made to see how countries, how member states are forecasted to achieve some targets in relation to waste management. And here, the plastic packaging recycling target of 50% that is due in this year, 2025, the forecast was that 19 member states would struggle to meet it, and this is a very high number. So we have an ambitious target, but we are struggling with the implementation. On the other hand, we also see a market issue. Again, it depends on the waste flow. We have especially issues in the plastic market, in the textile market, also in the glass market to some extent. But we are struggling with reincorporating those recyclates into new manufacturing processes. And here, very clearly, we look at the statistics. We have what we call the circular material use rate that is indicating this, and it's very, very stagnated in the past years. So here we are struggling.
What I see 10 years from now, this is both my hope and looking at the trends, that ESG is not going to be treated like a side function. It's not going to exist like a siloed function. It's going to be fully integrated into your core business strategy. I mean, that's how every decision needs to be made. Every decision, be it the target, right from target setting to operations to outcomes to revenue, etc., needs to be aligned with the ESG strategy in mind.
Yeah, I mentioned before, not always data. I think data, it's to have accurate and traceable environmental data is like the foundation of any serious sustainability effort. Without it, a company is essentially running blind. For example, data accuracy is crucial for compliance in CSRD, European regulations, or ISO 40001, environmental regulation. Waste disposal, but also emissions or resource use, require companies to report their numbers. Each data point should link back to evidence, for example, invoices, waste transfer notes, etc. So that sustainability reports can easily be verified. If those numbers are wrong, a company could end up facing fines or legal issues, and also the credibility of the company. But a part of avoiding penalties, having precise data means the company truly understands its environmental footprint.
And that brings TEIMAS Talks 2025 to an end. We'd like to say a heartfelt thank you to all of our guests for being part of TEIMAS Talks and for contributing their time and knowledge so openly. And of course, thank you to everyone who joined us month after month, watching, listening, and engaging with these conversations. We have big plans and great guests lined up for the next season. Until next time.